and power of low-income people, especially low-income people of color, so that they can shift and change policies and institutions that impact their lives. The Black Freedom Collective, or as we like to refer to it, the BFC, is a growing national coalition of Black-led organizations across community organizing fields committed to Black liberation and investment in the economic, social, and cultural infrastructure of the Black community. I am so excited today because in the spirit of that liberation and in the spirit of investing in the social, economic, and cultural infrastructures of our Black community, we have 4 dynamic and amazing Black leaders. We have Jaribu Hill from Mississippi. We have Danielle Atkinson from Michigan. We have Cynthia Thomas working in New Orleans and Louisiana. And we have Naomi Folami Randolph-Hweshumu working in North Carolina. And why we're here today is because we're here to celebrate. We're here to celebrate the International Women's Day, right? It's a day whose history is rooted, centrally rooted, in the struggle of working class women. And while we're here to celebrate, we're also here for what amounts to a very solemn anniversary, because it's this day, maybe this week, maybe this month, a year ago, that the COVID-19 pandemic came roaring in full speed into our lives, into our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our community. For me, March 8th represents the last day that I was physically sharing space with my organizing family and in my organizing home. It's been a long year, and it's been a difficult year. And it's been a difficult year that has disproportionately impacted women and disproportionately impacted Black and Brown women. So we're going to talk about that tonight as well. It's in that spirit, in what, oh, you know what? Let me roll back. Let me roll back and say something. We also are going to celebrate the fact that there's a piece of historic legislation that's walking its final legs to a vote into signage by our president. And it's in that legislation that we have quite a few wins. We're happy for those, right? We have a support for childcare. We have housing assistance. We have food assistance. We have the Earned Income Child Tax Credit. But we also know that that bill is wanting. There are quite a lot of spaces in that bill that are not covered, spaces that are occupied by Black women. So we're looking forward to this conversation. But one of the things that we do at Community Change Action and the Black Freedom Collective is that we are grounded in a race and gender analysis, but we also infuse healing justice in our work. And for that, I want to welcome my sister in the work and in the victories to come, Bianca Edwards, to ground us tonight. Welcome, Bianca.
Thank you so much for having me. And hello, everybody. I am so grateful to be in this space with you. We are going to take a moment and center in a poem. And after we center in the poem, we're going to just take a quick, brief walk. And one of those things that I have found that I've needed in this liberation space is the reminder that my breath is necessary. Not just for the now, but for everything that I am visualizing, everything that is in my body, everything that shows up in my DNA. And so we're actually going to start with one of my favorite poems. It's Love After Love by Derek Walcott. And I'm going to take you to the space where I first heard this poem. It was in a room full of my family from Bold. And the first time I heard this poem, I felt like I could finally see myself and welcome all of my divine brilliance with love instead of judgment, with love instead of demand, and with love instead of finding the need to try and reorient myself to be everything that wasn't actually me. So this poem was a remembrance and an invitation. And in Love After Love, I invite you to first take your breath, to inhale in and close your eyes. The time will come when with elation, You will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Mommy. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all of your life, whom you ignored for another who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit and feast on your life. As we center in this space and in that awareness, I want you to take a breath in, breathing in to your body. Closing your eyes as you go down a path. Feeling your feet touch earth and acknowledging its warm welcome. Feel it and get in touch with it, holding you and cradling you in a way only Mother Earth can. As you invite her to welcome and to cradle you in your arms and in her arms, sink in. Honor the life that she has given you and the life you give to her. Honor the breath of the babies that you have given life to that are both here on this world with us, and those who we needed more as angels, those who we never greeted because they had a different purpose, those you will never have but that you were aunties to and sisters to and grandmothers to, just because of your existence and because of your breath in this world. Honor the you that is a woman, that is whole, that gives life to visions that many of us can never fathom. Take it a step beyond being your ancestors' wildest dreams. Unbind yourself from chains we never knew were holding us. As you take a breath in, let your breath reorient you. Weave its way up through your spine. Let your heart chest crack open from the center and expand in love. Loving every bit and piece of yourself that exists. The you that is birthing visions and dreams, that has the ability to hold not only yourself, but to witness those around you. To welcome them and see their dignity and honor their joy and witness just as much grief as you do their life. Sink into the depth of you, the people that have your back, the people that are at your back now, the seconds and the minutes that came before this instant. And on your next breath, breathe in the galaxy that exists in your body. The heart beating, lungs expanding and contracting. Sink into your bones and let go. This is the place where you can show up wholly for yourself and with each other, where every sound adds music to the documentary that is your life. Let go of the things you don't need to control because their very existence is brilliant. And as you exhale out, ground yourself. Know that you are rooted and that your roots connect with mine. And with every family member, we have this showing up on this today. Showing up with us. We are united. We are connected. We are linked. Your shape affects my shape. Breathe into the visions that you're creating. Give those things life because they bring joy. Thank you for stepping in and honoring the whole of you because it allows me to see the whole of me as well. Jennifer, it's back to you.
Thank you so much, Bianca. I can honestly say that when I share space with you, I feel more liberated. I feel free. I thank you. I will welcome in our panelists one by one, and I'm gonna practice allowing them to name themselves. And so first I ask Jaribu Hill, please enter the space. Welcome, Jaribu. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Bianca, I am a little bit full right now, I must say. But thank you for grounding us and calling our memories and our remembrance to so many that are on our hearts and minds at this time. I'm Jaribu Hill from the Mississippi Workers Center for Human Rights, where I am the founding director, human rights defender, and attorney at law, sister in the struggle. So glad to be in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaribu. And next I welcome Danielle Atkinson into our space. Welcome, Danielle.
Hello, Jennifer. It is wonderful to be with you, sister friend. And thank you, Bianca, for that. I'm trying to choose other emotions instead of complete meltdown. I am feeling full from that. So Danielle Atkinson, Executive Director, Founding Director of Mothering Justice in Michigan.
Welcome, welcome. And now I'd like to welcome in Cynthia Thomas. Cynthia, welcome.
Hi, hello, if I would say good morning. Hi, everyone. My name is Cynthia Thomas. I'm the program coordinator with HousingNOLA in Housing, Louisiana. I just want to say thank you because you have just answered my ancestors' prayers with words coming from my mouth to acknowledge so many women here on International Women's Day. So I thank you all.
Thank you, Cynthia. And I welcome our final, but not by any means our least, Naomi Folami Randolph-Hweshumu. Welcome, Naomi.
Blessings and thank you. I am echoing my sister's feelings because there's an ocean. There's an ocean in my spirit right now. I am Naomi Folami Randolph-Hweshumu. I am the senior advisor of Action NC. We are in Charlotte, Durham, and Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I am a co-convener with Gloria De Los Santos of the Race and Gender Equity Initiative, which is called RAGE. So glad to be here with you all. Thank you.
I'm so glad you were here. I am so glad for this moment. And I just want to say for a second, we deserve this. This fullness, this sense of peace, this sense of liberation. Earlier this morning, as has been for the past couple of weeks for me, having conversations with other women of color, in particular other Black women, around how this pandemic has impacted their lives, how the breadth of it is almost sometimes immeasurable. And so the first question I have for us to kind of chop up together is how have you moved through the grief of the pandemic? What tools have you used to heal? And what have you called in? What have you called in to hold you in those moments when it's felt its toughest? And I think I wanna kick it off with Jaribu. I'm feeling your spirit right now.
Thank you again, Jennifer. Basically, I go back to that very cynical place of reality of our people, where the pandemic started so long ago, hundreds of years, 1619 ago, in a pandemic. And this pandemic that we're in now, of course, heightens the reality of our suffering, heightens the reality of the theft of our personhood and our humanity. Every time you look up, there is more disproportionality, there is more setting aside of our people. And so it's no wonder that we're the last to be tested, we're the last to receive the vaccine, we're the last to get food when we're hungry, we're the last to get health care, and we're the first to die in COVID beds. So for me, the healing comes from knowing that there is resistance, comes from knowing that we have not accepted this plight, this lot from the beginning. We have found a way, even in the pandemic, we found a way to hold each other. We found a way to do porch drops and take food to people, take masks and sanitizer, and take rights cards so that people could know what their rights are and they can know what they have a right to so that they can demand more than what they're getting. And Jennifer, you said something that stuck with me at the very beginning when you talked about the legislation that is about to be passed by President Biden. You said it was wanting, and it is wanting in key ways, in ways that are reminiscent of how we've been wanting as a people. For example, the fight for 15, the living wage is not going to be in this bill. And so when you say, Mr. Biden, that you are going to rebuild the middle class, what about the sufferers and the working poor? Is there any building that can happen there? Is there a living wage for sufferers who can't make ends meet? So that's what I see in the pandemic, but I'm heartened by the fact that there's been resistance. There's been fighting back when our people have died in the streets under the color of law. We kept coming, we keep coming. And that's what inspires me. That's what heals me up when I feel like I can't go on.
I hear you. I hear you. Thank you, Sister Jaribu. I felt something in your answer, and something that's always been resonating with me as more and more news stories pop up around the fact that, oh my God, Black women or Black people or Black communities are disproportionately impacted by how they get the infection with the COVID-19 or how they get the vaccine. And I often sat in wonderment. I was like, that surprises you? That surprises you how? That surprises you when? For real, right? But I see you nodding, Danielle. So I'm gonna call on you. Bring it in.
I mean, I think, for some of us, we've had the opportunity to have a pause, right? And it's not wasted on me. That is a privilege that's not afforded to a lot of people that look like me and share an experience of a Black woman in this country. And in that pause, I've been able to take note of the things that I don't do in my day job, that I haven't been, because there's stuff that happens between legislation, right? We can pass all the legislation of our dreams, but there's things that happen in the in-between, the relationships, the how you hold somebody in a crisis, the gaining of information and the transfer of information. And so I've been able to have conversations with people about their needs, about their strength, about their knowledge that I would have never been able to do had we not had this stop in our lives. And so, so just personally, I've been having conversations. I've been able to teach my children all the things that I've been complaining about them not getting in school. We've had to go back to now what's really important. How do we learn to be with each other? How do we learn about our people and how we've been in the past and how we can reimagine the future? And what imagination has looked like for our people throughout time. So for me, for right now, that's what getting through the pandemic has looked like.
Thank you, Danielle. Before we pick up this conversation, I feel remiss that I didn't tell the folks that are watching us live that we are accepting questions for our panelists in the comment section. So if in the midst of all this brilliant conversation, you're like, wait a minute, I want to go a little bit deeper, I want to know a little bit more, please drop your questions in the comment section, the chat, and we will definitely try to get them integrated into our conversation. And so before I want to go on now, because we got good stuff going. Cynthia, I'm looking at you, my sister in New Orleans. What do you got?
Thank you. So the pandemic, it has shed light on a lot of things, and it has exposed a lot of things, especially in my generation. I'm 29 and I'm seeing a lot of things that I couldn't imagine seeing. It also has awakened my ancestors' prayers. And what I mean by that is now we're not standing down for anything. We have this eviction moratorium that's going to close soon. What about those low income families who are going to be struggling, who are going to be homeless? This is a problem. This is going to increase crime. This is going to increase homelessness. What about the kids who can't afford to have internet in their homes, who have to go to the library and you only have an hour left and you can't even get a proper education? Now, only way we can hear from this is if we come together. We can't keep depending on X, Y, and Z. We have to stand up and do it now. And far as healing, prayer and meditation is all you need. God is the answering source for everything. This is something that I have been doing because the pandemic has driven me a little insane because I didn't know how to cope with this. This is something new to me. I didn't know how to cope with this. I had to channel into what my grandmother fought for, what my great grandmother fought for, what my great great grandmother had fought for. And now I feel like I can overcome a lot of things during this pandemic. It's not going to slow me down. It's not going to slow this other woman down. It's not going to slow any of us down. We can overcome and we can build on top of this. The pandemic only thing it has done is made us stronger. It has made us wiser. And they cannot stand it. I quoted today, the most feared person in America is a Black woman. You can't tear us down because we're not built to be teared down. We're built to rise up. And that's all I have to say about that.
You can keep it coming, Cynthia. You got the words. You got the words. But Naomi, I want to get you in on this question and this conversation. Tell me, sister, what I really appreciate is that you come as a healer. So I really
I appreciate that. Y'all are on fire. Like we could go do some stuff right now. I have realized that this moment is a Sankofa moment to my elders' comments to begin the conversation. And in the spirit of Sankofa, there are some ancestral imperatives that have arisen in this moment for all of us. And though we may not be speaking to each other all the time, we understand and realize that the points of connection, the roots of that tree that Bianca had us invoked for us a few moments ago, that's a real thing for us, right? That's a real thing in terms of support. That's a real thing in terms of connection. That's a real thing in terms of healing and our way forward. Our way forward is being deeper connected to one another. So that's another thing that this period has given me. I have intentionally sought levels of intimacy with people that perhaps I would not have sought previously. To Danielle's point earlier, things happen between policy, things happen between elections, and all the things that we have been very busy doing in our work in previous times. We've had to take the breath, we've had to slow up, and we've had to really take a look in the mirror to become intimate with ourselves. Why are you really doing this work? Why have you committed 20 years, 30 years, 15 years, 40 years, 50 years of your life force, your energy to do this work? What is that really about for you? What are you really gaining from that, right? And then the other piece that's risen for me in this season and a way that I've been able to move through it is what feels like an unencumbered opportunity to speak truth to power on all the things, on Medicaid expansion, on Black maternal health, on voter oppression. You know, there is all the blinders, all the scales from all the eyes are coming off. And so we have the opportunity and the responsibility in these moments to keep speaking truth to power. And the other and final thing perhaps is around like seeking joy, right? Seeking joy with and for ourselves, with our families, and with other people, and visioning about this work. So when we pass the policy, then what's the ripple effect of that change? I understand that I want less Black women to die giving birth. That's a real thing. But ultimately, what do I really want for Black women beyond that, right? So really pushing myself and pushing my colleagues and pushing those around me to focus on visioning, so that when the next Sankofa moment comes around, because there will be another one, the story that we are going to tell will be slightly different than the story that we are telling in this moment. The griots will have something else to say.
Ashe. I hear that. I hear that. I hear that. I'm gonna spice us up a little bit. I'm gonna ask a question. I have a couple of extra thoughts from just this dialogue, but I'm gonna go to the spicier question, which is historically, Black communities have been asking for our economic investment. We have not shied away from saying, "Bring us our coin, pay us what we're worth, and what our value is." But historically, the government has been very reluctant to show up in the dollars in the value that in the ways that Black community needs economically. So we had a kind of code toward to this question, which was like, how has the pandemic impacted your bag? But we'll code switch it a little bit and say, how is COVID impacting your financial situation? But I will toss this one up. Whoever wants to grab it first, I'm here for it. But I can call them, folks. Danielle, I see you nodding.
Okay, girl. I was like, okay. I felt it that you were going to call. Yeah. So it's interesting. So I was having a conversation with the Michigan Mothering Justice ED. She had just written an op-ed around COVID and the need for paid leave. And she did what she shouldn't do, which was she read the comments, right? And what typically happens when a Black woman demands her due?
Right.
Right? We all know. Let me tell the audience what happens. She got called every name in the book. She got called a welfare queen. We in this country have not been allowed to articulate the need and the deservancy of money into our community, and even an economic, even from an economic frame, right? Around paid leave is good for everyone. Paid leave puts money into an economy that only furthers capitalism, really. But we're not even allowed to say that because of what this country has painted us as. And so to answer the question, right, we know that Black women are the canary in the coal mine. Right. We are the first to suffer economically when this country is suffering at all. We are the first to feel it. And my internet is off. We're the first to feel it in the cuts to our classroom. We're the first to see it, cuts to healthcare, and to see that in our bodies and what happens. And because of that, we should be the first people to be able to articulate and demand what the change needs to be, because we are suffering the most. We do not have adequate social safety nets to catch up with or to keep up with a pandemic when people are being laid off. We do not have the investment in our early childhood facilities to care for our children when we are the essential workers. This economy, this entire country was held on the back of the lowest paid people. And who is predominantly in that role? Black women. So we are the ones that we have been waiting for. Our voice, our experience is the lived experience, is the expertise that should be heard.
I hear you. I hear you. Thank you so much for speaking the truth, Danielle. Jaribu, I see you nodding. I saw the smile.
I want to pick up right where Danielle left off. Thank you, sister, for your clarity and for putting it right where we could get it. I think that one of the things that is so clear in this period is that capitalism is not a workable permanent option. What you described, Danielle, when you talked about the living wage and you talk about those who continuously are set aside and pushed back, that must always be the case under capitalism. Capitalism is a system that requires that the masses of people at all times be not only exploited, but exploited to the point where a sister who's a farm worker in Zimbabwe said, she said, they want you down, 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 and then they want you dead. And so for us, the system itself is the back-breaking consequence that we're always forced to deal with. And you're right, no paid sick leave, no paid time off, no ability to shelter in place, even when you have a job that could actually be a job that you could shelter in place. The level of control between the boss and the worker is so fierce and so severe that they would never allow that to happen. They would always think that you're stealing time when you are the representation of the biggest theft of all, the unprosecuted kidnapping and the theft of our labor that flowed from that. So I just know that capitalism is the enemy of the sufferers. We've got to continue to look at alternatives. We've got to continue to push back against this whole glory day around a system that has never, ever afforded us anything but misery.
Hear, hear. I hear you. I see the nod, Cynthia. I feel like you got something coming in. And I remember having a great conversation with you about some of the things you've been doing during this pandemic. Come with it.
I got fired up again because what Ms. Jaribu just said is so true. You can be a Black woman working, and they always label you as the woman with an attitude or the woman who just can't get right when you're just sitting there doing your job. And then you have this thing where they get confused with power and authority. And you have to be mindful of who is your worker. Me, you can't fool me with your power because I already have it. It was already built inside of me. Your authority can go somewhere else. It can go over there in the bushes where you're gonna go home to. But you cannot do that to me. This has brought so many Black women to start their own businesses. I've seen so many Black women who are CEOs of big prestigious companies. I've seen so many women who are holding webinars to teach other young women to how you can get your bag and keep your money. We have to always find an alternative. We can have a job and it's not going to be enough because we have children to look after. I have set 3 blueprints for my children. And I said, you know what? I'm going to follow like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to follow my grandmother's, my great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother's footsteps. I'm leaving blueprints for my children. I have encouraged so many women to leave blueprints for their children. You start that business. You get your bag. You cannot let nobody bring you down at all. And we have to take ourselves, we have to get out of this mindset that we can't do it when we can do it, because it's been built inside of us. It's already been built inside of us. Do not let anybody tear you down and say that you're the Black woman with an attitude and we can't work with you. No, I can't work with you because you're incompetent and you just don't understand what I'm passionate about, what I put my blood, sweat, and tears about into this. So now that we're getting our bag, y'all are intimidated by us. Now that we're collecting our coins, you're looking at us in a different type of way. So what this has done for a lot of Black women, a lot of young Black women, they're finishing school, they're getting their education, they're getting their bags, and they're taking care of their homes like they were supposed to, like they are supposed to do, and that's what we are doing. We're taking care of our children because we have to leave something with them. Half of us, we didn't come from a home where we had the silver spoon, where our parents worked a high class job. No, we saw them struggle and we used that struggle and empower us to not let our children see what the struggle looks like, but to build them up from it and leave them the financial keys to success. To teach them about what a mortgage is, to teach them about how you need to get in school, what financial aid is. That's what we're doing. And I am proud of all of it. I am proud to see so many women getting up and rising and overcoming what they think they can do, which is try to bring us down. You would not bring us down at all. You thought you were, but you would not bring us down at all. I think
All right, you bringing me to church, Cynthia. You're bringing me to church. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank our folks that are out there watching and commenting. Jessica Strong, Sand Potts. Thank you so much. I saw one question and I'm going to hold for just a moment and then I'm going to put it to the group. But keep coming with the questions if you have them. This is such a scintillating conversation. But Naomi, I don't want to interrupt you getting in on this.
I'm not sure there's a lot more to be said other than a reminder that Black women are the social safety net for generations. we have been the social safety net. And because we have been so good at doing it, right, then the need for that, or the appearance that there's no need for that, has been prolific within society. You know, we are the food pantry, right? We are folks who are taking care of other sisters and other brothers and family members who may be without employment, if we still have employment in this season, right? We are folks in community who are looking out for elders, Miss Sarah who lives around the corner, Mr. Pete who lives down the street, right? We're taking boxes of food or bags of food and actual cash and leaving it there. And so we have continued to do the things that we've always done, back to this idea of it being a Sankofa moment and us having an ancestral imperative to do something different in this time. We also have to look at the fact that since February of last year, about 23 million women have been forced out of the labor market, right? In the United States of America. Now, when we look at that number, 23 million women, how many of those women do we believe are women of color? And for those women of color who've been able to remain in the labor force, in a job, those jobs are such that they have been always putting themselves in harm's way to continue to stay employed and take care of their family and take care of their extended family. So in this season, in terms of the economic impact, the ways in which there was a disparity already in a deep way to the dollar in terms of what Black women would make. And let's not forget our Native sisters, our Indian sisters, our Indigenous sisters, right? And our AAPI sisters and our Brown sisters, because they also are suffering economically disproportionately to other folk in this time frame. And we want to try to build spaces around economic solidarity, support Black businesses, give your coin to folks who respect and value you, right? Make sure that you have an investment plan. Sister Cynthia talked about a blueprint for her children. Yes, we need a blueprint for all of our children, all of our babies, right? Not just around based in capitalism, but based in liberation. As economic freedom is also linked to political liberation in this particular society. Look beyond these shores for economic investment. Wow, is America is that the only place? There are other opportunities for investment and growth and businesses to grow. I want to shout out for just 1 second, Sister Tarsha Gunn, who's a member of RAGE, single mama, has 2 children, homeschools both the children. One child has special needs. During this pandemic, she has written a book and started a business, right? There is absolutely, given the support system that we need with one another, nothing that we can't do. We have to make sure that we are aware of these systems and pay attention to them and try to reform them in the spaces where we can, but we also have to have that vision and keep moving forward collectively.
I hear you, Naomi. There was something actually that you touched on in this moment. This irritation that I've had as they've had conversations around this legislation, this federal legislation, as white millionaires decided to nickel and dime who needed a stimulus check and who needed to be shored up. And speaking to the communal sense that I come from a Southern community, I come from a Black Southern community where if somebody was down on their luck, we pulled ourselves together to make certain that they made it through. And so when they spoke to this, like this percentage of if you make a certain amount as a single person, or if you make a certain amount as a couple, that you would no longer be eligible. And it's like your thoughts are with so many folks, over 9 million people that are still not employed in this country as they were last year at this time. Who do you think pays their light bill? Who do you think buys the groceries? Because the stimulus checks they've been long drawn out and coming. Unemployment it doesn't get to some people. Some people have never gotten it. And so family members are coming in from their own income. They're kicking in from their own money to make certain that grandma, auntie, cousins, sisters, brothers, nephews, and nieces still can make it through with some dignity. And so just the idea that they feel they can nickel and dime us in this very last moment,
Right.
Sister Jaribu, I feel the resistance. Like you said, I'm actually starting to feel it. Like I'm right here. I'm here in West Virginia. I'm ready to fight.
I like that
Go ahead.
question. I like the question. Someone posed it to me, but
Yes.
it's a question for all of us. What alternatives are there to capitalism? And we have to always think about that, because after all, we used to be capital. We were counted with sheep, oxen, furniture, stolen wealth. We were counted on an auction block enterprise where we made the profit for the machine, for the trade. So if you ask me what alternatives there have been alternatives around since the beginning. Really, socialism has always been a parallel system. Communalism, communism, which is a scary word, but I tell you what's really scary. Scary for me is Jeff Bezos, a trillionaire, hunkering down and refusing to give 6,000 mostly Black workers in Alabama, Amazon workers, the human right to organize. And you're right, they sit in rooms all the time and make decisions that hurt us. And we have people that look like us who sit with them. And until we address the class issue, until we address class struggle and class betrayal, we're always going to be looking in the wrong place for our liberation. So I say that there are many alternatives. I encourage people to study up, to read up on some of those alternatives for yourself. Read up on countries that this country despises. Read upon the fact that Cuba has 99% literacy, when in this country we have a little more than 50% of everyone is fully literate, in the richest country in the world. So read up on countries that this country despises, and you're going to get an answer. You're going to get an alternative. Socialism has never really been fully realized anywhere in the world, but certainly in places like Cuba, Venezuela, it is realized to a greater extent in terms of taking care of all of the people and not just the privileged few. And the OJ said it in a song a long time ago, only 16 families. Of course, it might be a few more now that control the wealth in the world. That's capitalism. And globally, it's US imperialism. So look at other systems, study some of the theories that are brought about from other systems, study other folks, study Julius Nyeri, cooperative economics, study those who believe that there is something other than this exploitive system that we're in. And I would certainly be a vessel for that. I'm happy to share a book list. I'm happy to share information and help people on that journey if they're looking into alternatives. That's my specialty, looking at stuff that should be, that ain't right now. So anything that you want to go, I'm ready to go with you. Like Naomi said, I'm ready to come along with you to see, because this ain't working. You admit that, right? You agree. This is not working. Everything that you all have said on this screen, everything in the chat points to the fact that this is just not working. What do you mean when you say rebuild the middle class, when most people can't even afford a change of underwear? Most people can't afford a bag of groceries. What do you mean when you say you're gonna embellish people from my class, from the petty bourgeois, from the professional classes, and you're not gonna give any relief to those who suffer beyond suffering? So I say socialism is a better deal, especially since we used to be capital. Why would we ever consider being a capitalist when we used to be capital?
Ooh, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you, Sister Hill. We have time for maybe one more question that I'm going to pose. We like solutions. We like to choose our aspirations, to think future, to think joy. And there was a line that I read in an article. I think Teen Vogue brought it home for me yet again this weekend. And the line it was a quote: "The only way forward is with Black women, but not as saviors of democracy, but as the beneficiaries." And that set and rested, and I sat with that for quite a long time this weekend, and I felt every piece of it. And so I'm posing to the panel, what are your vision, or what is your vision for Black women's freedom, for Black women's freedom? what does that look like? And I know it's a little bit big for the last 15 minutes, and we have a special piece right before we end, so we got to be a little bit concise in our answers, but I would love to hear from you visionaries. What does Black woman freedom look like for you?
Yeah, I've been playing with this idea of expansiveness, of the fact that exclusion has been a tool of capitalism. I know this is like the capitalism hate broadcast, but like exclusion tells us where we fit in, what we do. Expansiveness, this idea of we find joy in making room for everyone. We operate under the understanding that if someone is in need, it is our joy to provide for them. How do we provide for them? And how do we provide for their thriving, right? Our society is built on, if anything, we make sure people are not starving, which we don't even do, right? But it's not this idea of how do we get people to thriving? So expansiveness says, if you have a disability, if you are a person of color, if you've been excluded in any way, how do we make room for you? Not only how do we make room for you, we center what has been discriminated against, what has been held against you. We dismantle that and we make a space that is ever expanding for any definition that has been excluded from the we.
Beautiful, Danielle. Thank you. Thank you. Cynthia?
I would like for us to walk into our alignment. I want us to channel in the women we have always been, which is strong, which is ambitious. We need to channel that and the time is now. We don't need to keep waiting around anymore. We don't need, because we see what that has done for us. They're giving us a stimulus check for a month. How is that going to help us for the rest of the year? You know, now children are about to go back to the school. We're in phase 3. Well, what about those parents who still have COVID? You know, I want us to channel in who we really are. We are jewels. We are queens. We are God created us to be just beautiful. So I just want us to channel in our inner self, our inner peace, and our inner queens. That's what being a Black woman is. We nurture. We are mothers. We're just everything. It's a lot of words I can't even get out of my mouth. We are just everything. Can I cuss?
Well, you don't have to ask permission if you have forgiveness first.
We are effing phenomenal.
There you go. I love it.
Channel that in. It's not hard. It's not hard for us to do. Once you channel who you really are, who you were created to be, who your ancestors been praying for, you're gonna overcome so many things. Yeah.
I hear you, Cynthia. I hear you. Sister Naomi.
So much joy, even in the time of all of this. Thank you for that, Cynthia. I want to call in the energy of Octavia Butler for a moment. A quote from the parable of the sower that says, "All that you touch, you change, and all that you change changes you." And so, given that, this idea of Black women's freedom for me is the ability to bloom and flourish where you want to. Whatever that looks like, wherever you are. It is the ability to co-create with the creator of your understanding, with your family, with your peers, with your sisters, with your brothers, the ability to co-create the existence that feeds your spirit, feeds your soul, and allows you to flourish throughout your lifetime in whatever way that looks like for you. You have the ability to determine that for yourself. Black women's freedom is also the opportunity to shine as brilliantly and as brightly in this landscape as we were created to do. It is the ability to have all of the things that have been poured into us for generations to blossom in a way that they can restructure the DNA of this country and restructure the DNA of white supremacy, because it's a living thing, right? It has its own organic energy, right? And so what has to happen for it to be dismantled, right? We have to speak that into existence for ourselves. So freedom for Black women is the ability to bloom and flourish where we've been planted, how we want to, where we want to, when we want to.
Naomi, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ashe, Ashe. I know we are coming to our close, and there's actually an ask, and there's an ask that I have for the folks that are watching us that have been populating the comment section with such beautiful comments. There's so much good stuff here, but we have an ask for you. We've shared in the time that we spent tonight, and we are asking you to share. Will you join us as we share our stories and we vent what our needs are? What do we need for thriving? And I know it's going up on the screen. There's a bit.ly that if you just click on that, it'll take you straight to this really easy app where you can tell us and tell the world, and specifically tell your elected officials what we need. I love that the women on this panel have not held back one iota. They have told you their stories, they have told you their wants, they have told you the aspirations for Black women. And I sit in just awe of their brilliance. This is why we brought them here. I could go on for another hour, but I know we don't have that, sadly. But we do have the app where you could tell your story, and we could have that for a very long time. So I'm asking for the folks that are watching, please share your story with us. This is how we build power. This is the resistance Sister Jaribu was talking about earlier, that this is how we continue to move on, move forward, and to get what we need to thrive. And because Black women, as Cynthia so rightly put it, we are everything. We have the creative sitting right here in all of our cores and our soul. But Sister Jaribu is going to bring us out with a poem. Sister, the floor is yours.
See the little brown girl, she's as old as me. She looks just like chocolate. Oh, mommy, can't you see? We are both in first grade. She sits next to me. I took care of her mom when she skinned her knee. Mom, can she come over to play dolls with me? We could have such fun, Mom. What's that you say? Why not? Oh, I see. Nina Simone. Ruth by Pauli Murray. Brown girl chanting Te Deumus on Sunday. Rust-colored peasant with strength of granite. Brown girl wielding ship hulls on Monday. Let nothing smirch you. Let no one crush you. Queen of ghetto, sturdy hill climber. Walk with the lilt of ballet dancer. Walk like a strong down east wind blowing. Walk with the majesty of the first woman. Gallant challenger, millioned hope bearer. The stars are your beacons. Earth, your inheritance. Meet blaze and cannon with your own heart's passion. Surrender to none the fire of your soul. Mom, can she come over to play dolls with me? Oh, I see.
Thank you. Thank you. This evening has lifted my spirit. Being in this space with you guys, you all have lifted my soul. I cannot thank you enough. I can't wait to do this again. And again, I remind the folks that are watching, that are commenting, that have questions, that want this book list, stay in contact, share your story, reach out to us. I know that it's been put out in the comment section around how you can join us at Community Change Action every Wednesday as we continue to build our voice and we continue to build our resistance. And with that, I say thank you. And I say good night.